All right, we'll begin with Michael Condon. Go ahead, Mike.
So I've got two. I'm going to ask the first one and then get back in line. But the parable of the sower of the seeds. So when I cross-reference this parable as it's applied with Deuteronomy 17, I see that receiving and acting upon counsel counts as part of what Yeshua is literally talking about. So when I counsel, if I'm not solid in the wise counsel that I obtain from leadership, then at least for that issue, I'm sown by the wayside, or I have no root, or the thorns have choked out my vision of the result of submission to wise counsel. That being said, since you are the one who's seen mechanically how this works from your perspective, how accurate is that picture when applied to counsel?
Okay, I think the way you described that is fine. Okay, so what I was going to bring up, and I'm glad you brought it up because that's why I like the Afterburn, because if I forget or miss something that I was thinking of putting into teaching, even though it's not in my notes, what little notes I have, but it's not in one of the bullet points. Deuteronomy 18, which is right after 17, it talks about that he says, I shall raise up for them a teacher, a prophet, okay, like you from the midst of the brothers. I'm going to put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all I command. And it says, and it shall be if the person does not listen to my words that he speaks, I shall require it. So this goes back then to chapter 17, which says if you have a matter that is too difficult and you bring it to the leadership, you should go there expecting to apply what you're told to do. In 17, it says, do not turn left or right, that if you don't do what the guidance you're given, right, the right ruling you're given, this is arrogance. Okay, now, and that's worthy of death, it says there. We're not going to kill anybody here, okay? But you'd be killing yourself. I mean, you're hurting yourself when you do these things, when you don't listen. But the whole point is, when we deal with the parables, we should be asking the question, yes, Yeshua was the one speaking the parables, but he's not here. He wasn't there very quickly after these things where it was the apostles then sharing. But the intention was that you would receive from the apostle the same way you received from him. And then whoever the apostles then trained, as you receive from that apostle, because Paul trained some people, and he said, look, you need to listen to that guy just the way you listen to me, okay? And so eventually you get down the line to this generation, the one you're in, and you should be looking for those Ephesians 4:11, fivefold ministry people who should also be giving you the word, and then your type of ground, which is what you were getting at, will determine how you receive that right ruling or counsel. So yes, it's a good analogy.
I guess you can't smack somebody into the correct dirt.
No, you can't make them become correct dirt. Although there are times when we try to get out our shovels and, things that we kind of till the ground with, and you guys are still hard as stone and don't till very well, okay?
I had a couple things. The first thing is if someone is acting like a diabolos, you call them diabolical. So, yeah. It's the same root, so yeah. Yeah. No,
okay.
No,
most people are just like,
yeah. But diabolos and diabolical.
I got that. Okay. I got that.
No, and then the other thing. So
listen. I tell the bad jokes hard to follow, not you. So just, it's my job. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So, and the other thing was on demons. So I looked up the word in the Greek, and it's interesting because the word demon only occurs one time, but the word demon, like small demon, demionen, right, comes up a lot more.
Right.
Thought that was interesting. And then the word for demon possessed, I think it's a little bit of a misnomer because the phrase doesn't have anything to do with possession. It's more like demonized or like the demon-ished, where I think it can make people think, oh, that demon was possessing the person, but really in the scriptures it talks more about people having demons, not the other way around. So that was an interesting little nuance.
Well, we may have to do something on the demons at some point, but
Yeah.
Look, a lot of the things that people didn't understand, and this is still today the same thing, I'm going to use this idiomatic phrase of that, we demonize what we don't understand, okay? So that's a phrase that goes back to things like this. If you had somebody with some sort of a birth defect or some sort of a serious mental health, like serious meaning obvious to people seeing them, because a lot of people have mental health issues and you can see them and have no idea they have one. But something that was overtly there, they might say that person had a demon because they didn't have an understanding of how you got to be that way, okay? So the person who couldn't walk, the person who couldn't talk, the person who couldn't see, the person who couldn't hear, they would often claim a demon involvement because, again, they had no other real reference to understand what else to call it, okay? So this is something also that we have a problem with because anybody that Yeshua walked into that had any major problem with their bodies, there was a belief or understanding by some, at least, that that person was dealing with a demon. Because when Yeshua healed somebody, they said he was casting out a demon. Okay, so that's where we get the whole beginning of this teaching that we did today.
Yeah, I found it really goes way back, way before this time of the scriptures, at least the New Testament, where the Greeks, they believed in demons. And the way they spelled it, the scholars today spell it differently than the way that we spell it usually, where they would spell it D-A-I-M-O-N,
right,
to distinguish the understanding that those people had at that time with the current understanding of like a horned, mini devil kind of guy.
Right.
Right.
Right. We normally think of demons as some sort of little ugly minions of the devil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's like that idea is completely different from what they thought back then was there were good demons and there were bad demons. So like eudaimonia is the concept by then, like this happiness from having a good demon, and then you could have a bad demon, a cacodemon, and that one would be like having a bad influence on you. And so back then they would have these ideas of like something kind of outside of your control, but is affecting you in the way that you're interacting with people, maybe to the point of having like a mental disease or some problem. But
well, I'm going to take that actually into a more likely common thing. Remember when I taught you guys the idea of having, say, the spirit of anger, the spirit of jealousy, the spirit of, right? We talked about these things, how it's not an actual entity, but it's a disposition, it's an intrinsic nature. So it's possible that this word, the way he's talking about it from the Greek and how they used it back then, is basically describing the same thing, okay? So you could have the spirit of joy, or you could have the demon of joy, as he would have just said that they would have that in the Greek, a good emotional disposition, okay? But often they like to make everything be by an outside entity, instead of understanding how much of it actually comes from inside.
Yeah. Basically, the idea is that demons were much more of an internal thing than external, like something happening to you. So
everything is an internal thing, because you know what Yeshua said? Where did he say the kingdom of Elohim was? Within you. Didn't he say that? Ooh. So all of this stuff is taking place inside of you. Wow, is right.
So when you said how the parable of the sower, and how you kind of just, when you reject it, you kind of just throw it like, to the wayside, and then HaSatan comes behind you and picks it up so you can't turn around and get it again. For some reason, it just reminded me a lot of Jacob and Esau, where he just cast aside his birthright and then Jacob picked it up. Is that kind of like a good connection to make?
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty good connection to make. I think that gives you a good example of it.
Okay.
Now, I just also want to say that for some of you who may have let it just sort of bounce off you and end up behind you, it's not saying, I like the way you described it, that it wouldn't, if you turned around, it wouldn't be there anymore. I don't want you to believe that like Esau, that means it's a permanent damage. It just means that you'll now have to ask, seek, and knock all over again. In other words, it wouldn't just be where you dropped it. It would have been snatched away. So now if you all of a sudden decide to come to repentance and you want it again, you're going to have to go, ask, seek, and knock, and make the effort again.
So it's like when a parent gives a child something and the child is just like, I don't want that, and like pushes it away, and then the parent goes, all right, fine, I'll take it back. And then they're like, no, I'll have it. And they're like, no, now you have to earn it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So I think that's a good example.
Okay, thank you, Rabbi.
But I think there's also the possibility, like with Esau, that if you at some point when you should know better reject something, it's just too late, because Esau wasn't getting it back.
The question I had was about Matthew 13:25.
Okay.
But it says, but while man slept, his enemy came and sowed darnel among the wheat and went away. So I'm thinking about, well, first for the men, but also really, I was like, how do I apply this? So, okay, they were sleeping. So for me, it's like sleeping is a state of your unconscious, right? So you're not paying attention. You're just, I'm not doing anything. I'm not busy, like doing something with the seed or the word. And so maybe that's when I can get in trouble because then, I'm not receiving and doing. Is that a good way to understand it? Okay.
It is a good one. Look, and this is, again, why I love the afterburns, because, I try to fit what I can into that little 70-minute or so, window. So here's the thing. This is if you have ears to hear, are you ready to receive? It says, while they were sleeping, while the men slept. Now, of course, we picture that they were literally sleeping, and so people could just sneak in and put stuff in the garden. So let's take this, again, as not literal, right? What is it trying to tell you? Well, have you ever said that somebody was asleep at the wheel? I don't mean literally, like they just somehow missed something because they weren't paying attention, right? That's a phrase we use, all right? This is saying that you could be asleep, awake, but not paying attention. Not being vigilant, not being aware. There's lots of verses that talk about wake up, right? From your slumber, don't slumber. And so when you are not vigilant, you're not paying attention, you're not awake, this kind of stuff could get sewn in there, okay? So weaknesses that you have, if you're not paying attention to them, could get basically stirred up and become a problem. In other words, there's a complacency here, okay? There's a lackadaisical, complacent attitude that allows for this. So again, it's not that, I just want to make sure we're understanding, it's not that the seed, okay, is coming from outside and you don't have something there, okay? What it is it's saying they're coming in to try to stir up those things in you, okay? You have this in you. It doesn't come from the outside. Otherwise, we'd all be in trouble with the same exact problems. We're all in trouble with different problems, okay? I don't have in me what gets stirred up in me the same as you do. I may be similar to some other people, but it's only a percentage of people that have similar things, right? And we all have a certain amount of our own unique issues of things that tempt us or problems or stumbling blocks for us that are not necessarily for everybody else. Okay? Now, that's not to say that there isn't in the billions of people, there isn't some people similar to you. If you have an alcohol issue, other people do. You have an anger issue, other people do. You have a perversion, lust issue, other people do. You have a whatever it is, other people do. But not everybody has the same one or the same combination that you have. Okay? So if this were literal, the enemy would come in and plant the same seeds in everybody, and it would just be the straight darnel in everybody. But there's a uniqueness to it based on you being asleep at the wheel and not paying attention to where you have weak spots and then allowing them to get tripped, allowing them to be triggered. Does that make more sense? All right, good.
Thank you, Rabbi. Okay, so with the first parable, okay, so the sower went out to sow, right? Mm-hmm. So the seeds are sown on this ground. The ground will be the heart and the mind. Is that what the ground is for us?
Well, the seed is being offered, okay? When we go to lay it on the ground, we're offering it to the ground. The ground could suck it in and take it, or the ground could just reject it. It depends on the type of ground it is, right? Okay? Because if you have a hard, stony ground, you might not even get the seed to go in the ground. Okay, now, that could be your mind. That should be the gateway that's first there, right? Because the person who received it with joy liked the idea of it, had an emotional response, so the heart responded to the idea. So it starts with the idea, then the emotion that comes with it, and then there's the level of how serious am I going to be about now taking this, owning it? Because I can receive it or not. Like the first level of ground, you don't even receive it. But there could be a level of receiving it, but I'm not actually possessing it, making it mine, and making it a part of who I am. So that's still going to have a head-heart connection, okay? I might even be aware intellectually with the very first level that something's being offered to me, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't want it, right? We've got people all the time at our own eggs walk around with some food to offer out, and I might be like, nah, it's okay, I'm not interested in that. But my mind was aware. I just didn't want it, right? Okay, then somebody else is walking around with something that I might want. I say, yeah, that's great, I'll take it, okay? Because my mind is aware of it and I actually desired it, okay? So when it comes to what the word is, right, the word is the seed. Intellectually, you may go, yeah, that makes sense. I accept that from that point of view, but how do I feel about it? Do I feel that it's important? Do I feel it's something I need to do? Is it something I can commit to? Am I gonna own this now? By own it, meaning it's now a part of me, okay? Torah is not something I do, it's part of who I am, all right? Okay? If you have a job at, let's say you work at a restaurant or you work at a factory, you work whatever. Well, the job is something you do. Unless it's something you also do at home and other things, it's just something you do. And then you go home and you don't do that anymore. But Torah is something that I am, okay? Now, Torah covers a lot of things. So, like for example, kashrut Torah, I'm only doing that when I eat. I'm not doing it all the time. Sabbath Torah, I only do once a week. Although I actually do it a little bit more than that because I have to prepare for it. But still, it's not every day, all right? But there are aspects of Torah that come into play all the time. Some aspect does. So if I receive it and it becomes, I possess it as part of who I am, then it's me being it as opposed to doing it. I'm being observant as opposed to doing observance, okay? If you're just doing it, you might stop doing it. Okay, so maybe that's a better way to describe the idea of receiving and possessing. It then becomes a part of your being, okay? I'm not doing Sabbath. I'm being a Sabbath keeper. I'm not doing kashrut. I'm being a person who eats according to kashrut, okay? Does that understand and make that different? Because if it's something I'm doing, I can always not do it. It's hard to not be it if I'm being that, because that means I've changed me into that person who does these things, okay? So it's part of my being as a part of doing, okay? So to change it from doing to being, you have to possess it and apply it, as opposed to just receive it with joy because you like the idea and it sounded good, okay? So receiving it's not enough. Because you receive it, you might do it a little bit. Possess it and apply it. Now, when you possess it, it becomes a part of who you are, okay? Because that's why if you ask a Jew, an observant Jew, I grew up with a lot of non-observant Jews, okay? But if you ask an observant Jew, why do you keep Torah? They'll look at you like, that's a dumb question. I'm a Jew. It's who I am. It's what I am. It's what I do. It's not something I do. That's what I do. It's my being what I am. It's like asking a fish why it swims. If you possess something and someone asks you why you do it, it should be a dumb question to you. Like, what do you mean, why do I do it? It's who I am, okay? Just like it would be dumb to ask a fish why it was swimming or a bird why it's flying, because I'm a bird. Okay, so why do you keep Sabbath? Because I'm a child of the living Elohim. That's what I do. So what are you asking me that for? How come you can't work on the holy day? Because I'm a child of the living Elohim. I'm covenanted. That's what I do, okay? It's what I am. Go ahead.
That's awesome. I love that. Okay, I did so much here, Rabbi. I just have one more because I know there's people waiting. When you're talking about demons, right? And then you're saying angels of light, and so keep that in mind. They're not going to look ugly or all that, right? Which, by the way, demons really look like a lot of the pagan figures. Like even when I go to Peru and I put some stuff there, I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks so dark. But anyway, my question was, so for us, like what we need to do, right? Connecting it with 41, verse 41, when it says that the messengers, they shall gather out them out of his reign, all the stumbling blocks and those doing lawlessness. So that's a way to identify people in our lives, or you're not even us. We could also be stumbling blocks. I mean, and no. Okay, so help me understand that.
No, you're not describing it wrong, but you're describing functionally wrong.
Okay.
The messengers will remove all these things, not you.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
Right,
just want to make sure.
No.
However, you should be noticing those that potentially, at least to your best discernment, are stumbling you or causing you challenges, and do your best to make sure they're not in your life creating your problems. Don't judge them as tares or darnel. Don't judge them as anything. Just realize I might be adversely influenced by them. I should probably limit my interaction with them. Does that make sense? But we're not going to decide that's a darnel, that's a tare, whatever it is, okay? What we are going to do is say, I, in my judgment, discernment, not judging, using discernment or judgment, realize I probably don't need to be spending a lot of time with these people over here who are doing these things, because that may trigger a problem for me. Not saying because they're such awful people, but I may be tempted to do those things that I know I shouldn't because that's a weakness in me. I should probably not be involved there, okay? And so that's just something that you can notice.
So one of the things that I've thought recently, and I think it's relevant to today's teaching, is that the master of temptation, HaSatan, whatever you want to call him, is so skilled at what he does that he doesn't need to lie. He can deceive us with the truth.
Well, I think we got this out of order. He's encouraging you to believe the deceit you've already you lied to yourself with. Okay? So he's feeding on the belief you have, but the belief you have is wrong. Either the belief that something's okay that's not okay, or something that's not okay is okay. So he's encouraging you along the deceit that you have. So when it says he's the father of lies, he's not the originator of the lie. He's looking for the things you're already lying to yourself about that you need someone to back you up and encourage you to go in the direction. All right?
So beliefs and filters.
So Yahweh said that they would die, and the serpent, which we were told is HaSatan, said, no, you won't. Okay? But I believe that's something that she already wanted to believe, right? And so I don't believe that he comes up with original lies, because if they're original, you would just reject them unless it was something that resonated with you. So he's going to come up with a lie to see if it resonates with you. Does that make any sense? And if it doesn't, you're just going to reject it as like you reject anything that someone says to you that you have no congruence with and it doesn't resonate with you. You know, lots of times in your life, people come up to you and say something that's not true, and you just go, no. Or they might say something that fits along with something you were hoping to be true or you're kind of feeling about, and you buy right into it because it endorses where you want to go. Which is where the danger is of hanging out with people that could cause you to stumbling, who are going to help you by feeding into your desire to go A or B, because you find somebody else who already wants to go the same direction you want to go, even though it's not the right direction. So that temptation's there. Does that make sense?
It does. So thank you for standing in the breach and carrying reason.
You're welcome.
I had an aha, and I think I made a connection, but I'm not sure it actually flows. So when Chris was talking about the demons and basically HaSatan just being the biggest of all the demons that we humans have imagined or come up with and given these personas to, they're basically just another way for the human mind to blame somebody. It's just another part of the blame game. If we don't have somebody, and a husband or there's just another person to blame, correct?
Yes and no. It's correct, but there are Satans.
Correct.
And there is likely, the way it's described here, a main one with that job, like the one in Job, okay? So it's not that we've just imagined that, but what we've done is we've created in our imagination, has been fed into by the churches over the years, this idea that that is the source of all the problems, not you. So we redirected the blame outside instead of taking it inside. When we understand that the restricted, constrained, limited Satan can only do what Yahweh lets him do, and he's only allowed to do and work with what you've got. And if you don't have it, he can't do anything with it. Now, of course, in Job's case, he said, well, the reason you think he's so great is because you give him everything. He said, fine, take it all away. And we'll see that that's not true. All right? So HaSatan could be accusing that of you. Some of you have a lot of stuff that's been taken away with you. Well, it's to see whether or not you're going to curse your Elohim and die, or you're going to stand strong like Job did. You may be going along so well, And maybe you think you're so good that the Father's like, well, let's see if you are as good as you think you are. Let's see if I'm going to put you through a little test. HaSatan, have at it. Let's go send this person through a real roller coaster and see what happens. That may not sound very nice or fair, but maybe it's needed to take you to that other level, that next level, all right? Okay, go ahead.
Okay, that was good. So then I know this is not what the parable is trying to tell us, the point that the parable is making, but connected with the HaSatan being the scapegoat that we use to blame, if you took the parable of they fell asleep, do we as people take our unconscious knee-jerk reactions and our being asleep and then blame the enemy did it just because we weren't driving at the wheel?
Anything that we blame to the outside.
But would that be a good way to see the kind of...
It's a way that you can see it. I mean, look, it's what we would call the victim mentality. Right? And so HaSatan is a great scapegoat for all of that. Anything in your life that you struggle with or isn't going right, so instead of owning it, let's blame somebody else. And why not blame the devil? Well, the devil made me do it. That's why I said the title of this is, the subtitle, did the devil make you do it? No, okay? He has no power to make you do anything. And unless you want to do it, you're not doing it. And I can promise you, in what limited years I've had of ministry, I'm limited meaning, 15, 20 years, whatever it's been, when I had a little break in the middle, but over the last 25 years, I have never seen anybody, seriously, do anything they didn't want to do. Anything that they struggle with, anything even no matter how good or bad it was, there was a part of them wanted to do it. Okay? Okay? Now, even if it's doing something you didn't want to do, but what you want to do is please the person that was making you do it. So there still was an element of wanting to do it. Or you were so afraid of the person, that's still your choice to want to do it because of a fear. Ultimately, at some point, you made the choice to do it. I've never seen anybody do anything that they didn't choose to do. Because they'll say, oh, well, my mother made me do this, my father made me do that, my friend did. No, nobody makes you do anything as an adult. As a kid, yes. As an adult, no. You chose to do. You could have chosen not to. Also, when you're told to do something and you choose not to, you chose not to do it. Whether it was the right thing to do or not, you choose. Recognize your authority over your life. Satan, the devil, whatever, can't make you do anything unless you choose to. Now, he's going to work real hard to try to convince you to do it if he believes there's an opening there. He's not going to try that hard at all if he knows there's no opening, okay? But when he tries and you show a little bit of daylight in there, a little crack in there, oh yeah, he's going to push and see what he can do. Just to see if you're going to shut that thing tight or you're going to break it right open. And sometimes you do one, sometimes you do the other.
All right, from Ernesto's two-parter. In summary, protection from bad choices and overcoming our weaknesses requires honesty, submission, spiritual discipline, and reliance on Abba's power and provision through Yeshua. And ongoing is ongoing, marked by grace, faith, and deliberate obedience, correct?
I would agree with all that. I'm not really sure what you meant by grace in there, but yes. Remember, grace is not to be used the way the church taught you to use it, okay? So is it marked by merited favor? Sure. Faith and deliberate obedience? Absolutely. Okay, I just get a little concerned at how we're using words that I've taught that we've been challenged with. But yes, that's correct, Ernesto.
From Olivia Dirth, two-parter. In Matthew 12:29, unless you bind the strong man, his house cannot be plundered, reminds me of what you always say about own and fix it. If we own or take responsibility for all of our heart, mind, thoughts, trauma, health, money, etc., we become the strong man figuratively and cannot be easily plundered by the adversary. Does that work?
Yes, it does. Good job.
Okay. From Helen Shearer, what about if someone is hot and cold? Like, for instance, a person is on fire for the word, but at times they are cold. Is that a root issue or an adversarial issue?
You're okay. You're kind of listening, but you're not listening or not fully receiving. Okay? It's both. both, but this way. It's a root issue. It's not an adversarial issue. But it's an adversarial issue, meaning that when you're cold, you open up the door to the adversary. So it's not the adversary causing you to be hot or cold. Okay, so it's you issue. But it does have an adversarial aspect to it, meaning that when you're hot or cold, you may be opening up, depending on what you're hot and cold for, opening up the door to the adversary to come in and kind of cheer you on in the wrong direction, okay, whichever one is the wrong direction. You can be hot for the wrong thing. He may come and cheer you on in that. You may be cold for the wrong thing. When you should be hot for something, he may come and cheer you on for that. But it's not an adversarial issue, meaning he's causing you to be hot and cold. That's a you issue, okay? You are the reason why you are hot or cold. Which, by the way, in Revelation it says that he would rather you be hot or cold than lukewarm. So that's not a terrible thing to be hot or cold. At least you are strong in the way you feel about it, one way or the other. But now you got to get yourself to be not on both sides of the fence, the cold side and the hot side. You got to get yourself to be basically on fire for the word, so to speak, okay? And stay that way.
All right, another one from Olivia is darnel adversarial.
They are tools for the adversary. Okay, so darnel are going to be behaving incorrectly, but amongst you. They're going to look like they're doing things right to some degree, but not. So they're going to be potential stumbling blocks, all right? So you have people around you that are going to try to tell you, oh, well, you could do this on the Sabbath. It's not a big deal. Oh, you can go ahead and go to the wedding. Don't listen to the rabbi. You can go to the wedding on Shabbat. You could do this. You could do that. That's what the darnel are going to do. So they're going to act in that aspect of being a tool of the adversary. So they are going to create stumbling blocks, but they're maybe not doing it on purpose in terms of like trying to create that for you. Their existence is a potential stumbling block problem. They could suck you into all kinds of gossip, lashon hara. They could suck you into all kinds of side issues and not liking a person and whatever else. There's so much that this can happen in a group dynamic. In essence, that turns into being a tool of the adversary, okay? Now, some of them can act adversarial towards you, and then that's also challenge you in how you handle people that don't like you, that create an adversarial feeling relationship. Every congregation has that. Some people who are not talking to some people. This congregation does, okay? Everyone does. So I'm not saying that the darnel are consciously doing any of this stuff. They are functionally being used at times by the enemy to do these things, okay? In terms of they've chosen their own preference path that has them behaving in a way that's not exactly right, that in a group dynamic could then influence others, okay? So just kind of think of it that way.
I just was looking at any places where spirit and demons were related, because you were talking about that idea of having a demon and having a certain kind of spirit. And one place was Luke 8, 27. And as he went out onto the land, he was met by a certain man from the city who had demons for a long time. And then it says down here about the same person, for he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. So that demon and the spirit, like the demon's kind of like a spirit, or like they're the same thing, an unclean demon, and they did those things for him. And then back to the verse that you had today in Matthew 12, 28. But if I cast out demons by the spirit of Elohim, then the reign of Elohim has come upon you. And I just realized that the spirit and the demons are in the same verse there. And so it's almost like replacing the demons of whatever was there with the spirit as similar types of things, I guess.
Okay.
Like either replacing the spirit of the world with the spirit of Yahweh. Because I know that there's that one place where if you leave it empty, then like the person empty of the demon, then other demons will come in, right?
Right.
So the way he's doing it, he is casting out the old demon with using the spirit as something to replace it with. I think that's
Okay, so we're going to have some challenges in differentiating, because there's going to be some verses coming up that I'm going to deal with that actually has to do with, again, a spirit or demon type of thing that's in my notes coming up here in the next couple of parts, okay? So, but I think at some points, the issue is an actual entity like we see with Job that is causing a problem, okay? And that problem is in response to something that is being allowed by Yahweh to be involved for some reason to get some sort of result. But we're also going to see that sometimes we're dealing with a person having problems because they have chosen a path that has wrecked their life and chained themselves up in some way that Yeshua is going to help them realize, no, there's another way to do this, okay? So we're going to see, like there's a woman with a weakening spirit, it says, all right? We're going to be dealing with that verse. And so basically the idea of being weak, okay? Not just physically, but I think that she had the physical manifestation of an internal problem, all right? And so we're going to see how these things play out. So sometimes it's going to be literally taking a physical constraint off, like the person couldn't walk, now they can walk. They couldn't hear, now they can hear, okay? They couldn't see, now they can see. But that doesn't mean everything is fixed.
It's more of a observation that I had, and I just wanted to see if this works. All throughout the scripture, we're told to guard, keep, obey, do. And then we have this parable of the darnel. And I was thinking about that. Could that be where those stumbling blocks are in ourselves? And if we partake in that, I've looked into a little bit, and if you eat bread made with darnel, it has the potential of killing you.
Right, right.
So would that work? Whereas if we succumb to the grumbling and the complaining and the griping and all that, that's like the darnel in our life. And if we partake in it, we run the risk of it killing us.
Yes. All right. So look, the nature of parables, the nature of symbolic language is that it does present the potential for all kinds of accurately usable interpretation, okay? But you have to make sure that it doesn't drift away from the actual point, it's consistent with the point. So yes, even though this is talking about something more literal from the idea of something that's going to be separated out and cast in the fire, okay, that these things are growing up together, but certainly we can see this being an internal battle as well. Okay, we certainly can see it that way. There's no reason not to. There are parts of you that are causing other parts of you to stumble. There are issues that need to be dealt with that have to be taken out and discarded and thrown in the fire, so to speak. But a lot of this, the way it's worded in this particular parable, has to do with the end of the age and all these other things. So, but I don't mind you taking these things and saying, well, what can I powerfully and potentially powerfully at least use in my life as a picture that this is kind of painting for me. So as long as it doesn't undermine the point, I'm totally good with it. So Robert, good job, that'll work. You know, I have no problem with it. I think it's not as full a understanding as it could be, only because there are other elements that don't really play in with that analysis, but it can work, okay? What you said can work, and that's fine, okay? All right, well, hope that was good for everybody.